I am absolutely delighted to be launching today a six-part series on self-care consistency with Cara Michel. This is an amazing way for you to gather insights, to gather tips that you can implement immediately and really make this year 2025 a fabulous year, or any period in your life, depending to when you actually get to listen to this episode. So empowering topics, valuable content, useful tips. And yeah, it's about taking responsibility and taking action. So today we start with the topic from caregiver to care receiver, redefining self care in midlife. And that had me very intrigued because I think it's something that we often do overlook. But before we launch into this, can I ask you, Cara Michel, to just share a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you do, and importantly, why you're doing this?
Yes. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm super excited to be here. So again, my name is Cara Michel Nether, and I am a healthcare practitioner, and I've focused on women's health for the last 20 years. And what I've learned over that time is that having the mental and physical energy that we need to get out there and take care of the important people and projects in the world, that is the underlying desire for every woman who comes to me.
Right.
I'm an acupuncturist, nutrition counselor, and personal trainer. So people come with different, what I call tickets. They come with different tickets to enter into a working relationship with me. Whether they say they have back pain or they're not sleeping well at night or they're trying to figure out how to take care of the brain fog that might be showing up, it really all boils down. Those things only make a difference because it keeps them from being able to take care of the exciting stuff, the life that they want to have, the exciting things going on, the relationships that are important to them. And so I really love working with folks, with especially women between the ages of 45 and 65, because I think that's one of the busiest times in a woman's life, right? We still have children that might need our support. We're in intimate relationships, we still may be pushing careers forward, but then also may have parents that need some support.
And I
So
don't think we see it that way, do we? We
we
tend to
don't.
think that, oh, things are quieter for us now. Often the children have just left home or have left home for a while, but they're settling themselves down. But it's actually not really very true, right?
Yeah,
They come back and there's just added things as well, where
yeah. If they're not quite at that point
yeah,
where everyone is taken care of. And,
yeah,
and, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today, right? And I'm not
yeah.
sure when that actually shows up that everybody's taken care of, but
No, I don't think ever. Once, first of all, a mother, you're always a mother,
that's
if we're
right.
talking about children. And I
Yeah.
remember somebody saying to me, way, little children, little problems, big children, big problems. So it's not so much talking about running around behind them, taking them to lessons and blowing their noses. It's talking about finding a way to guide them and respecting their own independence as well. So no,
That's
I'm
right.
absolutely thrilled that we have this. So Cara Michelle, you're based where?
I am based in Baltimore.
Okay. And maybe very rapidly, what brought you to be doing this?
I thought a lot about what I was going to do with my career. My father thought I was going to be a veterinarian because I just love animals. But being helpful, I think, is the underlying pin there. Being able to help people, live a life that demonstrates their true potential in the world is what
Right.
really lights me up. So I really came to Oriental medicine. Like I said, I'm an acupuncturist. That's where I got my master's degree. And I just think that being able to walk both lines, the Western side as well as this, West Eastern philosophy perspective, has really given me a really interesting way
Yeah.
of being able to support women from both sides.
My gut feeling as well is that we actually need it more and more because, all our lives, whether we're in midlife or not, are busier and busier. We're supposed to be available 24/7. We've got so much content to digest. It's also online. I think we often underestimate that it is still a stress for our system. We haven't evolved that fast, that living, 80% online is something that our bodies are used to, whether it's staring at screens or the pinging of the phone all day long. And I am glad that we're talking about self-care because that's what it's actually boiling down to, isn't it? And the fact that by definition, women are more caregivers than care receivers, right? I mean, I guess that's genetic, it's biological.
Yeah, I think that's true. I was thinking the other day about the right to vote and how, that was just a mind shift, really, right? Like for so long in the 1700s and prior to that, women just didn't question whether or not had the right to be able to make some decisions about how their daily experience went or how the trajectory of their lives. That was going to be taken care of by somebody else. And I really liken that to self-care because I think right now we're still under the idea that we have to give first and then we take care of ourselves.
Right.
And we all know intellectually that we are giving from what we have mentally and
Right.
physically.
And if we have nothing left, then we can't give anything. But we tend to think that we always can or that we should. I think that's also a big one, right? Okay, there is a very nurturing aspect of women. We're going back to biology and the fact that woman was there to bear the child and to look after the nest, to look after the food, to nurture the child so it could grow and be another able being who could then again reproduce, if we're just talking about the laws of evolution. But we do underestimate the fact that if we put ourselves always last, at some point there might not be a we anymore. That
That's right.
cliche of the airline. I remember the first time I even heard that. I remember thinking, oh, no way, I would always want to look after my child first. And then you're thinking, but Julie, that's absolute rubbish. If you don't have any oxygen, how are you going to look after anybody?
If you're passed out,
Yeah, exactly. I'm more of a burden than helping anybody else.
yeah,
And that's it. That's it. We seem to think it's selfish, don't we?
we sure do. We sure do. And the thing is, I don't think there's a lot of role models that we are connected to. Like you get these one-offs, you get the unicorns, right? You'll hear about somebody who puts themselves first, but when you look to your left and you look to your right, what are your neighbors doing? What are your friends doing? What are your colleagues doing? Everybody's just giving from that empty bucket. And it's kind of like a club. There's a club mentality. Well, that's how I know that I'm doing it right. If it's hard and I'm struggling
Yeah.
and I'm
It's that's a
pushing
bit of
and
a
I
badge
know
of
that I've
honor, right? It's a bit of a badge of honor. Oh, I had to do this
yeah,
and I had to do that and I had to do this and I had to do that. And you think, but we tend to say putting somebody first. Then it sounds immediately that we're taking away from that person, etc. It's just not forgetting about ourselves, right?
that's right.
I mean,
That's
what
right.
would we say to our daughter? I wouldn't say to my daughter, oh, darling, run yourself to the ground, look after everybody else in your environment. I would say, be a loving, compassionate person and we're here to contribute, etc. But we have to be in the right state in order to shine, to
Yeah.
encourage other people to shine. If we're all dead and lying panting on the floor, what sort of an example are we?
Exactly. I was having this conversation with my mom a couple days ago. She's in her 80s and she's really working on being able to say no and
Mm,
being able to have time for herself that's just sacred and to not give it away just because the phone rang and somebody needs
yeah,
something, ask a
yeah,
question, right? And so we're having this conversation and I said, I would imagine that you grew up watching grandma, her mom, just working tons of hours, coming home, taking care of the kids, and going to bed late and getting up early, and all the things, right?
yeah,
And really,
yeah,
and so she learned how to be a great mother, how to be a great wife, right?
yeah,
By watching that example, and she's passed that on to me. So, like, that's what happened. So
yeah.
you're saying like we would
It's
never
nurture,
tell our
right?
daughters
Yeah,
to be like that, but we showed them
yeah,
that's how to
yeah.
be.
Exactly. So, I mean, when we talk about it concretely, so we're now talking about midlife, and you've brought in that interesting factor that actually it is a very busy period of our lives because indeed we are usually still there as a contact point, as a I need you point for our grown children. Often that's the only time we actually hear from them is when they need something. Then, we've still got businesses that we're running or starting something else. Most of us have still got a partner where we, share tasks or whatsoever, but where there is still a part there. And then we do often have those parents who are starting to get into a situation where they need help, where it's our time to help them as well. So there's a lot of being pulled in different directions. And so we're not putting ourselves first and forgetting about everything else. What do you say to people then who come to you for all those myriad of things that you do in this, self-care, healthy being fulfilled? What do
Yeah.
you suggest then?
Julie, when we came up with the title for today's topic, From Caregiver to Care Receiver, I wanted to really play with that because it kind of sounds like you're letting go of one and picking up the other, but it's never that way. I think really the message that I would like to share is that in order to really give, we need to just make sure that we're putting some emphasis, shine the light on ourselves, start the day in a way that's going to allow us to mentally show up the way we want to, physically show up the way we want to, be the best version of ourselves. Because often what happens is there's no schedule for when somebody's going to need you.
Yeah.
It shows up out of the blue. You got a busy work day. That's the thing that's scheduled, right? You know the projects at work. There's some things going on here at the house. But the things that matter the most, those relationship questions, the need of
Yeah.
a loved one, they kind of come out of nowhere,
Yeah.
right? And it could be first thing in the morning. It could be in the middle of a busy day. It could be at the end of the night. But in those times, it doesn't matter when it happens, you want to show up as your best,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Relationships, it really, that's what it all boils down to. That's why
Yeah.
we're doing all of this, right?
Yeah.
We want to be great mothers. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want to be there for them. We want to be a great partner to our spouse or partners. So the relationship is it. But what happens when we show up and we say something that's kind of not really what we meant, or maybe it comes off a little bit gruff because we're so tired,
Yeah.
or because they hit us right in the middle of another thought, we're kind of
Yeah.
dismissed. We end up not being the version of ourselves that we really want to,
Yeah.
and it doesn't end there.
Yeah.
What happens? We
And
lay
then
in
we
bed at
lose
night.
ourselves, then we tell ourselves the whole day how we're horrible, bad people, which
Yes,
makes us
that's
feel
right.
even
We
more
just spin it
worse,
around.
right? We need to also feel happy with who we are,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. And that's it, right? There's a version or a vision that we have for how we're going to be in the world. And I think that one of the, while we want to give some real clear tips today, and I do believe that that might be tip number one, is
Right.
to just take a few minutes. You can look, it could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, pen to paper, if you like a computer, whatever you want to do. Just get out of your head and on the screen or on paper some adjectives that define who you want to be and how you want to show up.
Right.
This gives us a roadmap, Julie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because life is so busy, if we don't have an intentional time to clarify what it is we're trying to do, we just keep doing the same thing. We
Yeah.
just keep running.
And we won't know that we're missing it. We'll just feel
We
bad,
won't,
right?
right? We don't know we're missing it until that
Yeah.
we're not the person that we want to be, and then we have to spend time cleaning it up or spend time with lots of negative self-conversation about it, negative self-talk about it. But then we don't really know why we missed it. We don't know. You see,
Yeah.
we don't know what.
So really ask ourselves, who do I want to be remembered as, or what do I want people to say about me? That sort of thing that really makes
Yes,
us say, okay, if I have to describe myself in what, 5 words did you say or something?
sure.
Or
Yeah, that's absolutely it. A phrase that I often will tell clients is, if I were the woman of my dreams, who would I be?
oh, that's a nice one.
If I were the
Right.
woman of my dreams, who would I be? Right? That's a nice broad way to kind of think about it. And I
I'll
would
write that one
keep
down.
it's a good one, yeah.
It's a good one.
And
Yeah.
I would keep those, like a screensaver, keep them, someplace where you can bump into those adjectives regularly.
Yeah.
Because it's easy if you take the time to do the exercise, which I really highly recommend
Yeah.
folks do, just take a little bit of time, right? That might be tip number 2, but we'll get there in a second. But we try to make things bigger than they need to be,
Yeah.
right? So just take 10 minutes. Who do I want to be, right?
Yeah.
We all have 10 minutes. And then you want to make sure that it's somewhere. Is it on your bathroom mirror? Is it on your phone saver? Is it on your computer saver? Is it on your desk? So that you can constantly see that, oh yeah, this is what I
Right.
really value in myself. This is who I really want to be. How do I make sure that I'm moving in that direction every day? I'm going into a
Right,
meeting.
because that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, one, it's really knowing. And then I guess, it doesn't mean that, okay, then we're going to do it perfect. I'm going to be perfectly the wonderful, patient, generous, always present Julie. I remember I did this before Christmas, wrote this whole blog about how to be sane and serene during the festivities surrounded by other people, right? Within 5 minutes of Christmas Day, I declared next year I would be in Australia because I couldn't stand all the stress. So, okay, we might not make it each time, but when we do feel off, when we do feel angry with ourselves, I guess that then we have like a blueprint to look at. Instead of just self-loathing or feeling bad and then, I don't know, going to the kitchen and overeating or getting a glass of wine or whatever these stupid things that we do when we feel that we need to, reward ourselves or take care of ourselves and we're actually only
Yes.
punishing ourselves. But it's to then know, well, then, if that wasn't it, what was it? I think that's a lovely one. I've never actually asked myself that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I got it from, but man, it's a very powerful one.
Yeah. Okay,
And
so you
again,
stick them up somewhere so that each day you sort of, I mean, because life does happen, as you said, it just falls in and with all the best intentions, then we're triggered, right? We respond too fast is basically the thing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that, wanting to figure out how to make life the way, and how do we want to design life so it feels more comfortable for us
Yeah.
is a project worth taking on,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? We could do it the way that most women that I've worked with, and I know that I've fallen into this too, is on what I call the health and wellness roller coaster, right?
Okay.
That just means that you get excited about a new, you're going to eat better, you're going to exercise, whatever
Yes.
it is, you get all the stuff organized and laid out. And then, 2 or 3 days, maybe a week later, you've totally forgotten that you're supposed to be doing something. And, it sounds kind of funny, right?
Mm,
That, oh, yeah, I got excited and I didn't. But you
yeah.
know what? After a number of times like that, and I know clients who would admit that they've been on this cycle 2 or 3 times a year for the last
For
20
years.
years. Like,
Yeah.
yes, right? And it starts to wear on you after a while.
Yeah, it's
And it makes it,
exhausting. And I think you also feel very disappointed in yourself each time. So instead of building up some nice self-confidence about this is the person I am, I'm not perfect, this is what I'm working on, etc., we just end up bashing ourselves over the head about we never finish what we start and we're not capable of changing. And that's so counterproductive.
yes, yeah, it's counterproductive for all that we're trying to take care of now in our lives because it transfers, right? I couldn't figure out my exercise and now I guess I'm not good enough to do that or I'm not smart enough to do that. But then you start to have that conversation about other things in life,
Yeah,
right?
you bring everything in, everything which happened over the last 50 years. Let's put it all in the same pot, make the colors brighter, louder. Yeah, I mean, it's time to stop that, isn't it? I
Yeah,
mean, if
yeah,
we really want to be, we're talking about being fabulous after 50, we're talking about being a great person, but we can only be a great person when we feel a great person. So
mhm,
it's what are these things that we can do and change? I mean, it is all about taking responsibility and taking action,
yeah,
right? But maybe less of a fire and flame, but more a deeper way, like you're
that's
saying,
right.
know yourself, know what's really important to you individually, not some sort of shopping list downloaded from the internet about what you should be as a person, but what is important to you as a person.
That's right. Absolutely. You said it beautifully, right? Let's just make up our minds that I'm going to start to work on this in a way that I can sustain it. And
Yeah,
that's going to help me not just now, but for the next 10, 20, 30 years,
yeah,
right? And that way, when you figure out the puzzle pieces for your own mental and physical energy, right? If you figure out, if you're clear, this is where I'm going, this is the vision I have for myself, and these are the things I need to put in place to help me feel my best so that I can get over there and be
yeah,
excited about the life that's in front of me, then then you have it.
yeah,
The,
yeah. And
the,
we
the
and we
roller
owe it to
coaster,
ourselves, right? We owe it to ourselves to be the best we can and as a
we
role
owe it.
model for others.
We owe it to ourselves, but I'm going to take it one more step, Julie. We deserve it.
Yes.
We deserve to feel strong mentally and physically,
Yeah.
to feel like we have a sense, we understand our bodies and our minds, and we know how to take care of ourselves while we're taking
Yeah.
care of
We're
the
happy. It's all
other.
about being happy, right? Being happy about ourselves, what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're saying, what we're giving. Now, one thing I did want to say is I do feel, or this is something that I've been working on myself lately, that we're notoriously bad at receiving.
Mm,
We've got all these barriers, all these, okay, I'm going to focus on this and I'm giving this and giving this. Most of us are terrible at receiving a compliment. We would much prefer saying wonderful things about somebody else than receiving them ourselves. We're a bit like, oh, no, no, whatsoever. So, how can we sort of open to receiving it?
mhm. Well, let's acknowledge that it feels good.
Yeah, Yeah.
It
And that we
does feel
deserve it,
good.
like you've just said. That we
Yeah.
deserve it like we think that everybody else deserves it too. Should what we hope and want for everybody else and what we would say to our sister or our daughter or our best friend, but oh darling, but you deserve, this recognition and this time for you, etc., so that you can help others better. But we don't do it to ourselves. We seem to have a totally different criteria of reference for us.
Yes, yes. And it's something that we have to say, this is useful for me. This helps me. I deserve it. I want more of that, right? And then you start to see it you start to look for it. And when it happens, then you can practice
Yeah,
receiving it,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And it might feel weird at the beginning, just like all new habits, but the more we do it, then the more it just becomes normal. And I think what you said is it's that asking yourself who I am, and then actually slowing down when you get that phone call or that whatsoever, and instead of straight away, reacting to it,
Mhm.
I thought you say I'll be back with you in a second or something, just to prevent you from all those things that you said. Sometimes we're rough or we're short or we're dismissive or whatsoever because we've already struggled so hard to agents all these things in our day that when something unexpected lands on top of it, we're angry, right? Because it's going to mess up our system. But it's then to remember that that person is actually very important for us, but
Yeah.
first to calibrate with ourselves, give ourselves that love and that permission also to maybe sometimes say no, right?
As I was saying, I was talking to my mom, and we both were talking about how when a person asks for your support, asks for you to listen, asks for your advice or needs some support, help, what they want is that best version of you,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And the truth of the matter is that, how many times is it truly an emergency,
yeah. So we
right?
choose when we give that best version. That's what I like, what you've just said. So we're not saying we don't even have to be saying no. I mean, sometimes we can say no because we don't have to save the entire world all the time, especially if we're in a moment where things are, tight. But it's to maybe say not just yet.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Is
that's
it
also
okay?
self-love, right? That's also
Well, is
self-love
it?
saying, well, right now it's not actually suiting me.
Yeah, yeah. Like, is it okay for me to? I'm going to finish my exercise routine, or I'm heading out
Yeah,
for a walk. I will call you when I get back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
It's
no.
only good. It's only empowering. And I think if more people actually did take time to recalibrate and remind themselves who they are before they respond or react or whatsoever, I think the world would be a much better place. Right,
Yes.
we've almost finished for today's version. I'm looking forward to this six-part series. So, do you want to summarize for us? So, we said from caregiver to care receiver, for those who need to have like in a nutshell at the end of the
Sure,
day.
sure.
What do you
Yeah.
suggest?
So number one, we're probably not going to get to a point where we're not caregiving. So we just got
Yes.
to know that's a part of our life from now until then. But we want to do it from a place, from a level that feels really good to us. We
Yeah.
want to be our best version of ourselves. And I would even say that most people would say that our loved ones deserve a best version
Yeah.
of us,
Yes, that's a good
right?
point. That's a
And
good way of
so
looking at it, right?
yeah, yeah, perfect. We talked about the fact that we deserve to feel good. We deserve to not suffer while we
Yes.
are giving, while we are
Yes.
caring. Not only is it good for us, but we deserve it,
Right.
right? And so that might be a different way of thinking, a different mindset, a
Yeah.
shift there to think that, oh, well,
Apply the same
I don't.
criteria to us that we give to everybody else, right?
That's right. That's right. I can take care of these people that I love, and I don't have to wear myself
Yeah.
down or set myself up for diseases as I get, older because I'm not taking care of
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And also I think we were talking about the fact that it's okay to be thoughtful about what it is that we're doing and do the things that are actually going to take us when it comes to self-care, that are actually
Right.
going to take us towards the vision that we have for ourselves. We talked about the question, if I were the
What
woman of my
what
dreams,
dreams?
right? Then who would I be?
Right.
Right? So clarifying, taking a few minutes to clarify that statement and put down some adjectives for ourselves, then tells us what we might need to put into our self-care
Right.
routine. We don't
In
want
order
to
to be
look for
that
other.
version, what do I need, right?
What
In
do
order
I
to,
need? Right.
yeah,
It's so easy to jump around and get confused and make it complicated because we're trying to do all the things that everyone
yeah,
else says. But if I want more mental energy, maybe I look and see, well, am I sleeping okay?
Yeah,
Oh, no, let me work on my sleep.
yeah.
That's the one thing I'm going to put time into.
And we can also share that, right, with the people in our life. And when I travel with my partner, who I love very much, I'm somebody who also needs my quiet time and my me time, in particular in the morning. And it's taken me years to do this, but as I said to him, I do need to have an hour a day just for me. Whether it's for reading, meditating, doing yoga, going for a walk, just lying on my bed, reading a book, whatever it is, I need an hour. It felt so liberating. And he was grateful that
Hmm.
I shared that with him because then he
Absolutely.
knew. And he said, oh, great. Well, then I'll go for a jog at that time or whatever. So it's also acknowledging what we need in order to be that woman of our dreams, but then also maybe sharing it with those who share their lives with us so that they can help us stick to it.
Yeah. And once you give people a structure, people are only going to treat us the way we tell them to.
True, true.
Right? And so when you give people a structure, they're able to fit into it. It's our own desire to have
Yeah,
that time and our willingness to speak what it
yeah,
is that we need that's probably
yeah.
getting in the way more than anything else.
And that's our first lesson in self-love, isn't it? Because often we give that, like you would talk about that badge of honor, sometimes we give that impression of, yes, 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 okay, I can do this and this and this and
Yeah,
this and this and this and this. But, then it's also an invitation to people to just keep throwing everything at
that's
us.
right.
And
Because
and
we've told them that.
we've told them they can, right? Okay. Cara Michel, this was wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing your insights and your tips, really crystal clear. So, for those of you listening today, I really, really invite you to doing that exercise. I'm going to do it too tonight. If I were the woman of my dreams, how would I be? And come up with 4 or 5 adjectives or whatsoever so that we can remind ourselves each time of who we are. And then what do I need in order to be that woman? What space do I need? What care do I need? And this is all about, making these years the best possible for ourselves and for those that we are caring for. And I'm very much looking forward to next episode. So watch this space. All the best to you all. Bye
Thank you.
now. Bye, Cara Michel. Bye.